All right. So again, early and often I should be price impression, because again, if I'm going to not have them fall over dead at the end of it, I need to make sure that I'm price impression correctly. And as I'm going through, if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm going to mark off all of the product lines on here and remove them from the situation, right? And today we're going to talk about, because the only thing you'll ever really lose to if you're walking into it is price, and the only one material that you'll ever really lose to. Because if you do your job correctly, we want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves in a position to basically lose. And if we are, it means we're just not paying attention to some of the things we need to, or we didn't condition on why that window is the right window for their home. Now, let me repeat this real quick, right? Because I have that sitting on the screen. I want to make sure that you guys fully understand that when you sell a premium product, it has nothing to do with just the product, the feature, advantage, and benefit. It has zero to do with that. So if you think about selling windows is about the fact that this is called Ultrex, and then everybody's just gonna fall over dead and call it Ultrex, right? Just like any product you do, I don't care if it's Tivarian, what it is, nobody's gonna fall over dead wanting that inside their house just because it's beautiful, just because it has thin profiles, just because the energy efficiency goes in there, just because it has thermoset technology like concrete. There's nothing in there that's gonna make them wanna put that window in until, repeat that, until you make this window what they need and want for what's going on in their house. If it's not about condition and environment, repeat that, if it's not about condition and environment, it's price. If it's not about condition and environment, it's about price, right? Because I could put this window with the wrong installation in, and it's not going to do what it needs to do. I could put this window in the wrong area of the house. I make it a pain in the butt. I could put a little window like this and make a gliding window in a bathroom that should have been a casement. It's not going to do what it needs to do. So the window matters, but it matters based on the solution they're trying to require in their house. And if we don't think that and don't understand that before we get started, all the stuff I'm about to explain to you is worthless. But if you want to be the best, you want to be number one, you want to make sure you have a 30-35% close, you raise your average sale to about $19,000, and next thing you know, your revenue per lead is close to that $7,000-8,000 every single month. Open your ears. So I'm about to teach you. And if that's important to you, then lose your ego, set it aside, and realize that going out and selling the cheapest vinyl window that we carry in our arsenal is not moving you to the next level. If you want to make $200,000-300,000 a year, open your ears up. So number one, before we get into anything fun, price impression. If you don't price impression and then share with them where you get the information from, right? So if you're one of those people that think you can be really good and not bring a window in the house, good luck, okay? Even if you take it out of this case and you carry a basic window in, I don't give a shit. Carry a window in, right? If you cannot be effective if they can't see it. You cannot be effective if they can't see it, right? At minimum, even having this in, if you don't have this thing in here at minimum, which shows basically your different types of frame materials, if you don't use this one at minimum, you're not really showing anything. What the hell are you selling? The air? You're not that freaking good. I'm not that good. Okay? If I'm selling off B and price point, that's good. But when you're talking 50, 70, 80, 100, 150 plus $1,000 jobs, right? There's lots of opportunity there. So we got to, again, make sure that we're doing those little things which are going to help us dramatically. Okay? So next, Sean created this file. I'll give him complete ownership of it. I love it. It's just a quick way to get some more price, right? I had it where it was just the products themselves, the price. Sean did it. We interluded it. I love it. It's just another way to get so you can get price impressions. If you do this thing correctly, you're going to get price impression in front of people's heads, probably anywhere between, about 25 to about 36 times throughout that whole area, right? But the problem with this one is, again, they're going to face on 10 existing 3x5 foot windows. So if they have 12, if they have 15, if they have 20, if they've got 30, 40 windows in here, this isn't the save all on your price impression. This is not the save all on your price impression. It's not moving us where we need to go because you're price impression based on 10 windows.
Lonzo.
Kind of scary sometimes to put yourself in a position where you can underprice impression somebody. Repeat that. You can underprice impression somebody. So you want to be careful because when you're throwing it in, you need to be very freaking clear that you read the whole damn page. The whole damn page says 10 existing 3 by 5 foot windows installed. Cost and installed it costs $24,000 to $54,000 for the wood vinyl composite. You know, $15,000 to $32,000. You have to say thousands. If you say 32, you know, 15 to 32, 17 to 35, then kick yourself right in the butt. You're not doing yourself any favor.
Lonzo.
Put yourself on mute. Put yourself on mute, please. So the aluminum, 6,000 to 12,000, 14 to 28. So if you know by this time, you've measured the frickin' home, right? And I'm doing this, I'm keeping right in here because I can't tell you how important this piece of it is before we get into the solution. Okay? So as you measure the home and you come back in and you know basically this is what they want for their home, and you know there's 15 windows inside the house, then you need to have this fucking sheet ready. I'm saying fucking because I want you to really get your attention here. Okay? This sheet ready, and you're handing them their own copy. When I get, hey, I brought something in for you as a gift, here is your copy. And you hand them their copy. And once they touch it, guess what they're going to do? They're going to read their copy. And they're going to start looking at math. They're going to start figuring this out. But again, on this page of it, it says nowhere 10 existing 3 by 5 foot windows. Okay? It says nowhere 10 existing 3 by 5 foot windows. So if you're not verifying or explaining that to them, they might think that's based on a whole house. They might think that's based on a whole house. Next, if you have this based on how many windows they have in their house that you should have already pre-filled out for them, and on there it says 17 windows at whatever, they have a high and a low, a high and a low, a high and a low, and they've got it through there. So, you know, you take 2 times what, 6, there's 12 more price impressions right there in front of their face based on how many windows they have in their house. So if they tell you later they want to go shopping or they got the other estimates, you've just given them 12 fucking estimates right here. On top of this, down here, where you've given, you know, 19,000, 23,000, guess what? There's 2,000 remodeling contractors packed up into that. So now they've got 2,012 estimates so far, right? So how many other freaking estimates do they want? It's irrelevant. They can shop till they're blue in the face, right? The only thing they're looking for is the same thing at a cheaper price point. Guess what this is? It's the average. The average price. This is the high and the low in the average price. The high and the low in the average price. And if you ask them, based on the heat coming in, that's hitting you in the back of the home right through here, you know, would you consider putting aluminum in your house again? No. Safe to say we mark that off, right? Let me ask you, based on maintenance, it looks like to me, maintenance hasn't been the top priority. Would you want to put a window back in that you would have to maintenance even though it's beautiful? No, I don't want that. Bam, remove it. What about aluminum clad? No, if I'm not doing wood, I'm not putting aluminum clad. Bam, take it off of there, right? What about basically wood vinyl composite? Let me show you. You want to gobble your glass? No, bam, take it off, right? What about fiberglass? No, I don't want fiberglass. Bam. What about vinyl? Well, let me talk about vinyl real quick. We're either going to do vinyl or we're looking at what you got. Okay? Remember, you're not fucking fiberglass. You're Ultrex. Okay? You're not fucking fiberglass. You're Ultrex. And if you treat yourself as fiberglass, guess what you just did? You put yourself in a box. And that little box you're putting yourself in is as big a box as you have. So no matter what you say, they're going to not pay attention to anything, but they're going to dive in on fiberglass. And then every time they hear fiberglass, they're going to go online, they're going to Google fiberglass, and they're going to want to get other estimates on fiberglass windows. Don't do that shit. Put yourself in a situation, your words matter. Your words matter. Let me repeat that, your words matter. If you don't use the right verbiage, and you use the wrong words, turn around and kick yourself right in the butt because you're walking away from orders and you're not getting what you want. You're not getting what you deserve. Well, actually, you are getting what you deserve because you're saying the wrong verbiage. Okay. Hopefully I've made myself clear on that part of it. So as we take them through these window products, by the way, this is not for you. Let me repeat that. This is not for fucking you. This is not yours. I didn't make this for you. This is made for the customer. It's the first fucking time they're seeing it. They buy windows like they get married. It's an anniversary, right? It's an anniversary. People get married one time in their life if they do it right. If they don't, it might be multiple times because it was a good or bad decision, right? Putting windows inside your house is a good or bad decision. So you don't take the window and throw it in a slice of life based on what's going on in the conditioned environment, and you're not telling them and teaching them why the pros and cons, putting this exact window back in there is a good or bad idea. You're not doing yourself any favor. And you don't say it to a second, get your ass up. Take your computer with you. Take your iPad with you. Let's look at this real quick. Maybe you do it on the inspection. Have it in front of their face. Would you consider, look, see how cheap this is getting back here? Would you consider putting this inside your house again? No, I don't think you can get a permit to put it in, but it is cheap. Think about it. Take them down that aisle. There's a reason why there's a pro and a con. And it's not to bore the shit out of somebody. You're educating them. They're about ready to spend $30, $40, $50, $60,000 on their home if you're doing it right. So you take it through your wood windows. What are the pros and cons? Take them through your aluminum clad windows. What are the pros and cons? You take them through basically your vinyl industry, right? Pros and cons. So now we're setting it up to talk about why the industry sucks. And we take them through our windows and talk about what heat distortion. Let's talk about this real quick. This here, I love these. I love these. If I would have had something like this when I was in the house all day, this is a difference maker. I can tell you what I would do if I were in the house. The very first thing I would do is say, John, hey, I want to play an experiment with you real quick, right? I want you real quick. I want you to grab this thing right here, and I want you to squeeze this thing, and I want you to flex it for me, okay? Just grab this and flex it, or put it on your knee, and I want you to feel basically what that's like. Put it on your knee right here, and see if you can flex it.
Do it during the show.
No, I'm teaching you how to do it. I told you if I were doing it, I told you what I would do if I were you. I thought about it for a while, right? And I want you to take this one too, just so that we all stare. And I want you to just put that on your knee. And I'm not really going to explain it yet, okay? Now what I'm going to do real quick, see there's the concrete out there. I'm going to go set these two on the concrete, and then when we get time to talk about it, I'm going to go back out and grab them. I'm going to let you go real quick. So at this page where it says vinyl, I'm going to walk back outside, and I'm going to grab the vinyl piece. And guess what I'm going to leave out there? My Ultrex piece. And I'm going to have them come back in as I go out and grab it. I'm going to have them come in after it's been sitting there in the sun, and I'm going to teach them something. Because if I'm doing my job, I'm teaching, right? Guys, do you understand the difference between thermoset and basically thermoplastic? Okay, let me explain to you why vinyl windows in our market don't last. Okay. Now again, vinyl is some great things, right? It's low maintenance, it's cheap to mass produce, you can mold and shape in all kinds of different ways. But when I'm talking about that mold and shape, you know, they heat this vinyl up to about 121 degrees, and they can mold this thing into basically an arch, and they can mold it into shapes. And they do those things at 121 degrees, right? So I want to talk about it, right? Number one, vinyl windows has the highest glass seal failure in the industry, right? 3 to 4 year life, or 3 to 6 year life expectancy. They warp, sag, basically crack and discolor. So what I want to talk about real quick, right? Look at how big some of your windows are. Look at that, right? You got about, if you told me how much glass compared to how much frame sits in a window like this, right? So if I take how much glass compared to how much frame, what would you say the ratio is? 85% glass compared to what? 10 to 15% frame? So if I got 10 to 15% frame holding 85% glass, this got to be a strong frame, right? Because if that frame isn't doing what it needs to be doing, doesn't matter really what you're putting in, because what you'll notice is one of the biggest places that windows start to fail is they start to warp here, which means they start to sag. Do you have any clue why that might happen?
Because the vinyl moves 7 times more than the glass.
Well, that's one thing, but let's talk about common sense. If I'm not a sales rep in a house and I'm asking a customer that, what do you think your customer's going to say? Exactly. Would you like me to teach you why? You spend a lot of money, right? Getting ready to open the account. Once you want to make sure if you're spending $1 your hard-earned money, you're doing it towards the right thing. Exactly right. Let's do it. Okay. So again, what happens is you'll see sagging happen, just like we're seeing right here in this, right? And the one frustrating thing is they say a 16th inch or a normal 3 by 5 foot window is like a 12 square inch hole leading directly outdoors of the house. You think if your window's sagging that much, you probably got the smallest line on a tape measure? Now, I'm not telling you energy efficiency is important, but other things that can come through there. Suddenly you start getting spider webs that build themselves in the bottom of the window, or basically inside this window right through here, where you get that, and you realize why they build their webs? Because they're catching things going in and out of it, so they know that's their food source. So when we think about this, warping has a lot of effects. Plus, if something is no longer square, like this, and I'll be talking about their window. I'll be right with their window right here. If this window wasn't square and it was warped, do you think that might affect the operational reliability of that?
Oh, yeah.
So when you put a window in earlier, you said you wanted it earlier when we were talking, you told me you want a window. You said you want to put something that was going to make sure it operated right. And it did it for the existing time you were in the house, right? You don't have to mess with it again. You told me it had to withstand the heat coming in. And number 3, you made sure that basically you didn't want that seal failure stuff inside there, right? So let's keep going. They tell you again, basically, low return on investment. It changes the style of the home and it's got a poor warranty coverage. And it's not strong and durable. See, the one cliche that everyone talks about with vinyl windows is they got a lifetime warranty, right? Everybody's got a lifetime warranty. Lifetime warranty in our industry means nothing. It's only as good as the company put it in, number 1. And then number 2, basically, a manufacturer does not write a warranty for a customer. They write it to protect themselves against the customer and against the contractor. So they look at it as, we look at it as the manufacturer's out to get us. They look at it as the consumer and the contractor's out to get them. So you got 2 people fighting for one thing, right? So there's nobody in the middle there's nobody in that middle ground. So you look at it, Consumer Reports put out something. They said, beware, because a lot of people buy windows and they buy them on price point. They talk about the cheapest price point you can get, right? $9.99 or best offer installed. It's the absolute cheapest one I found. This is actually making complete fun of the industry. Because there's a time where it said, windows were going at like $289, $179, $169, right? They're going way down to something crazy. So they put this in on the funny because this happened in the Midwest. It says, yeah, today comes a free monogram terry cloth bathrobe. It says, because you're going to need it. All joking aside, you've probably heard of these companies, right? Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports says, vinyl sash trafs come to store during durability tests, parts of frames, both during durability tests, and we experience glass seal failure and durability tests, right? Vinyl expands contracts 7 times the rate of glass, right? So remember, see this piece you're moving here? This piece you're moving is basically kind of showing you kind of that rate it's going to move. And we're going to show you some statistics in a minute. It also says vinyl expands 7 times the rate of glass. That actually causes sills to pop between glass and frame, and vinyl is simply not sustainable on its own as window material, right? What that means is a vinyl window, if we walk on the outside, when they build a brand new house, they don't have your stucco and your paper and all those things that are out there, right? They take it and they put a nailing flange around there, and they put about 35 to 40 16-penny nails. They put it around a nailing flange that goes around that entire window, and that holds that into place. In the Midwest, yeah, that's if they do. You let that vinyl siding move back and forth like this. And if that was nailed too tight, they call that in the Midwest friendly siding, because it's going to wave and bow and it's going to warp. So one of the reasons they don't use it here is because why do you think? Why do you think they wouldn't use it in Southern California? Heat. Exactly right. And it basically, because it's not sustainable on a window material, just like a piece of vinyl siding, it's nailed into place. And it's nailed right in the middle. So again, it can move and fluctuate, because we know it expands and contracts 7 times the rate of glass, right? It moistens and softens in extreme heat and dries out and becomes brittle in extreme colds. We don't have to worry about the cold here, but it. Secondly, we want view space, right? We want to make sure it's viewing out here. So it says vinyl windows look Because how many times do you think you built your house did they decide they were going to take it apart and put it back together again? Zero, right? They weren't thinking about that. If they were, they wouldn't have stuccoed over the flanges. They'd have left it so you can take those flanges off and on because you know you're putting a window that's going to do it. It's not that vinyl is bad everywhere. If you're in the Midwest or East Coast, it's probably a good product for you. But here on the West Coast, where it gets so stinking hot, and we, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we're in base of the sun, right? We don't get a break. It's not snowing. There's no break for it, right? So it's not going to last. So this thing was done to protect poor dogs, right? People walk their dogs on hot pavement. Right now, there's signs all over the internet and all over the news right now telling you to be careful not walking your dogs on hot pavement. And we're talking 80-degree temperatures, right? 80-degree temperatures, and they're telling you it's going to burn those poor dogs' feet. Those poor dogs' feet. They tell you basically right here, if you take 77 degrees outside, the temperature on asphalt is 125 degrees. Now, Dustin, why in the hell are you telling about asphalt? How does that matter? Well, stucco is also a great conductor. Stucco on the outside attracts a lot of heat, right? And you think about it, you got two of the best conductors known to man here. You got glass and you got aluminum, right? If I take glass, one of the best conductors known to man, is that going to attract or detract the heat? It's going to attract it. So no matter what I do, that's going to put a lot of heat on the glass, which is going to cause damage to surfaces, right? And the one thing about it, you remember I said earlier, they bend vinyl at what temperature? 120. They bend vinyl at 120. They make a shape out of it. Means at 77 degrees, which means that asphalt or that concrete or glass could be at 125 degrees. What's that tell you could happen? Do you think that shape that's holding that window up might change? So if you start thinking about 88 degrees or 86 or 87 degrees, right? 135 or 143 degree surface temperature. And if you're confused on surface temperature, think about what happens if you walk around a swimming pool on the concrete, right? How hot is that? How hot is that asphalt? If I'm out walking on pavement or sand, right, going out to the ocean, how hot is that sand get? If I'm not wearing basically water shoes or basically sandals, I could really burn my feet and do some major damage to it, just like you see happen to those poor dogs out there, right? And the heat distortion rate of a vinyl window where it completely fails is 143 degrees. Or moccasins, there we go. So the other thing is basically vinyl from United States Department of Energy tells you vinyl windows can warp, twist, bow, crack, and fade. And guess what? In hot, sunny climates, do we consider that Southern California? Maybe even Yuma, Arizona, Thailand? With direct exposure to the sun is not recommended. Let me repeat that one more time for you. In hot, sunny climates, direct exposure to the sun is not recommended. So what it's telling you is that vinyl will heat up and it will change its shape. So that's one of the reasons why we don't push vinyl windows in our Southern California market. We're not trying to swim in a sea of sameness. Secondly is this. Wood composite, which is Fibrex. You can just read through that, right? But I put on there very important that it's made to replace wood construction, not aluminum replacement. Again, it's to replace wood construction, not aluminum placement, which is why they do a very good job in the Midwest and East Coast of the United States. But here on the West Coast, they don't do very well because nobody wants to put a frame you're going to lose 9 inches of glass space in Southern California. And not to mention, they're super expensive, about $32,000 to $62,000 for 10 3x5 foot windows. So for 20, that's $64,000, $65,000 to basically over $100,000 for that project, right? So when you look at that, think about this. How would you feel if you walked up and you had your aluminum windows with basically 2.5 inches of glass loss, and suddenly you're at 5 inches per side, or real close to 5 inches, which means that's just the bottom. Now you're not even looking to the top. That could be 10 inches net of glass space around there from the top to the bottom that you're missing out on. Let me ask you, based on what I showed you, is that something you'd want to put on your house? Now, what about the vinyl? No. Check it off. Then we have fiberglass, right? Unfortunately, not all fiberglass is equal. So we look at it, fiberglass windows are great insulators. Pros is they expand and contract virtually the same rate as glass. There's some good things there, and they're strong, right? They make ladders, boats, all kinds of things. As long as it's made old, it's not a bad thing. But again, when you don't make it in a mold, some bad things can happen on there, right? So the cons, the corners can't be welded. So like here in your corner, what happens is they use glue, screws, and staples, right? So hold on one second. Let me show you something. So if I'm looking at my glue, screws, and staples, look, right here. This is a basically impervia window, right? So right here are my screws, and then they just matterly just took out the staples for the samples because I griped at them and told them we can't be showing staples in our windows, right? The other thing is, see the glue that's sitting here coming out on the bottom of it? Yes, it's polyurethane, but realize that if you have polyurethane, why do you need screws inside of a window to hold it in place? Because the thing about basically fiberglass is not meant to be glued, screwed, and stapled. So there's a problem and challenge there, right? So a lot of it has to do with the materials it sets. The challenge is too is the finish, right? You know, one of the things I'm going to show you throughout this, if you look at this, it looks like duct tape. You know, some of this stuff looks like duct tape on it. It looks like somebody rolled duct tape right on the finish of it, which is causing that thing to look just like duct tape. So we look at it, people have griped and complained about the finish, and it's not real clean in the corners. Look at the corners, that's a pretty ugly corner. It's not very clean, right? Secondly, is you all use something called glazing bead. So we look at this, there could be some challenges, not to mention finishes. You talk about the finish, this is not designed, fiberglass is not designed to be in high heat areas for long periods of time, right? That's why you can't really find fiberglass ladders. If you go to Home Depot and look at a ladder you're going to go take home onto it, most of them are aluminum. So we look at this real quick, right? So let's talk about the fiberglass ladders. If you didn't know what a glazing bead is, look, this is a glazing bead. Do you have John? Why glazing bead is used? It's used to basically keep the glass in place. And it's used to protect moisture from getting in behind here so it doesn't cause the seals to fail, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about more of that in a minute. And not to mention, these things have weep holes. And these weep holes mean that water is designed to run inside the frame. And if you got a frame that's basically designed, if you got a frame that's designed to basically not allow water to get in there, so again, we don't want to let that happen. But if we got a frame that's designed not to let water in, let me get back here. Hold on. I want to show you guys something real quick. If I got a frame that's designed not to let water in, so I'm scared of getting into the knee wall, why on earth would I ever want to introduce water inside of a frame? That just sounds like a bad idea, right? If you're worried about leaking in your knee wall, and the only thing keeping it through is a little bit of polyurethane, I don't want to let water get in there and get that slow drip. Because really, we've never ran into many fiberglass windows that haven't had problems in the base of the knee wall because they have internal water management systems. So when we look at that again with the finishes and stuff, it just does not seem to be a very strong thing. And not to mention, there are companies that base themselves on new construction, which is like Milgard and some companies like that. They literally put a gel coat on the outside of it. And just like a boat or a Corvette, if you don't wax and seal it, you know, like Mr. Miyagi there, every couple of years, you're going to be in trouble. Not to mention, if you don't cover up the material itself, you can have off-gassing, which creates chemical allergies. So you got to be careful with some of those challenges that walk into there. So we got to make sure everything is good. Right? So let me ask you, based on a basic fiberglass window, knowing that's going to cost you about, what did we say? You know, $14,000 to $24,000 to do those 10 existing 3x5 windows. Your house going to cost this to this. Would you consider putting a fiberglass window in your house? No. Guess what? You just marked off the entire list. Congratulations. Now what? Now what? Right? Now we got basically Ultrex. Let's talk about Ultrex, right? At this point, you're going to want to take out a sample, and you're going to put this big boy in their hand real quick, right? Because we want to now set ourselves up, and guess what I did for you? You're going to love this, right? So I set this window, and we got this window. You're talking about how gorgeous it is. Look at the profiles, man. This was manufactured by the same company who owned their own basically lumber yard. So they milled this window to look just like the lumber and those beautiful Marvin windows that come off the line onto it. They milled to look identical. So you've got that basically edge, which sets on there, that natural wood edge that gives you that table line. That table line that comes on here of a natural wood window makes this window so gorgeous to the point till you actually touch and feel it, you have no clue it's not a wood window. So the gorgeous looks, aesthetic, and appearance of it, not to mention we look at things like this, we want to concentrate on appearance, performance, and durability, right? So let's talk about it real quick. I'm going to go out and grab something real quick, and I want you guys to watch this video for me.
How strong is Ultrex? That's a tough question to answer. Doesn't stop what you're trying.
Remember, this one's been sitting out there how much longer than this one now? So after that plays, then I'm going to come back in. I say, Sean, now obviously that's been sitting out there for probably about 15, 20 more minutes longer than the other one is, right? Now go ahead and fill this one for me. And you basically have them bend on it. Have them bend on it. So again, you get that wow factor. So John Mary, what it shows you, you know the major difference between that. And now you can go down your slides, right? And I'm not going to read the slides so you're more than capable of reading, but we test this stuff, right? We test it up to basically, in here it's tested up to 350 degrees without moving. That's where you got to go through your keynote. I'm not going to sit there and read it to you, right? It talks about how much stronger it is in vinyl, how much stronger it is in Fibrex, the expansion retraction rate over here on the right, right? Then we talk about basically narrow frames. We talk about basic glass loss in there, which is important to them. Then we roll into this big boy, right? Read the very bottom. It says, Ultrex is a thermoset material. This is exactly why we were asking, Sean. Ultrex is a thermoset material that is cured to harden to a shape like concrete. The curing process is irreversible, means it can't be undone. And basically, or irreversible chemical reaction, which means it cannot be undone, which means the doors and windows made of Ultrex will not melt or lose their shape, even when exposed to extreme temperatures up to 285 degrees. 285 degrees. We're talking double of what it takes to actually maneuver and shape some of the vinyl product, right? So Sean, when you're thinking about this window being 90% glass, 85 to 90% glass, and 15% frame, knowing this thing is cured to be concrete and it's not going to move on you, what does that mean to you? It's the last time you got to buy the windows, right? Can you see why we manufactured the windows the way we did? You see why we teamed up with Infinity? And the term Infinity starts to come up with a reason, right? Because it's forever. The term Infinity means forever. The other cool thing, look, Ultrex actually expands, contracts less than glass. That's freaking amazing. It means it's going to stay true. That weather stripping, the air tightness, the things that roll into it are absolutely amazing. Not to mention the finish code. You know, Sean, when you look at the finish code, I mean, just look at the differences in it, right? Look, this one looks like duct tape. This one's smooth, got that beautiful sheen on it. It looks like that natural painted wood window, right? So you look at the two next to each other. Which one would you rather have, Sean? All day long, right? What do you think? You want this? Yeah. She wants us so she can go on a plane with it, right? So next is Ultrex. They use actually a 3-time thicker acrylic coating on the outside. Now, if you don't know what acrylic is, right? Acrylic is different than the vinyl aspect. Right? Vinyl is going to warp and sit, but that acrylic coating walks on the outside of it is like they use in the showers. Look at these showers where people come in and redoing their shower. They don't want maintenance. They don't want to lose their luster. They always want to keep that brand spanking new look, and they want things not to have surface tension, right? The bad thing about this is with these pivots and the duct tape, this becomes porous, which means that things will hit and grab and eventually embed inside of it, just like kind of that nasty old fiberglass bathtub you found, where things start to look gross and also almost start to grow mildew and mold right in the form itself. The form about this is this allows basically that to come up and basically hit and repel off, so everything is permanent. There's nothing that's going to basically impede into this, and it's going to basically withstand the heat. If you look at right here, proprietary acrylic 3 times thicker than the competition. There is not really competition doing it. No sanding, scraping, painting required. You know, our finish and scratching and denting perform so well. You can use that if you want to. So well that basically we never have to fear UV degradation. And our proprietary Ultrex finish is the first and only to eat the stringent AMA 624 verification. That's on the finish, John and Mary. If you look at it down here, is exactly what I was showing you with the competitor and the Ultrex, showing you those differences in finishes so you can be proud of what sits in there. And acrylic, another reference too, if you didn't know what it was, just like the old trucks, where they have those little acrylic finishes on the caps of the glass, would actually show you basically how those things can be cleaned out, and they look as new as they did day one, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. You see it way after the basically finish of the truck's gone off. That's one of the things we're confident about the finish on the product. Next is superior design. You know, we don't use glazing bead. We actually build window around the glass. I know there's a lot to this window, but there's a lot to be proud of, right? So we build the glass, the frame around the window, there's no glazing bead, which means guess what? No moisture or air that can get in, creating any fogging or condensation happening behind it. Number 2, it creates a tight seal in the glass, which lessens sound dampening. And number 2, helps for shock absorbance. The next piece is, again, it makes this thing sing and dance. So it looks more clean from the outside. And then the way that we miter the corners, that's the cleanest miter you're going to find. You're not going to see it. No unsightly welds. It's going to look gorgeous the entire way through. And it's going to give you that look. And not to mention, we don't have to put a bunch of locks on it because our window's too weak. We can do just one up to a very large size. You check your ADM on that. Next is the glass. Before we get into the glass, we'll go through these slides have not changed. We'll talk about keeping argon gas in the glass. Before we do that, I'm going to end on this note. We can talk about glass on a different day. Is I want to show you one of the most important things about this window. One of the absolute and utter most important things about this window. And I'm going to show you down here, when I break this up, I'm going to allow you to put it in your face. This is the most impressive part. Water management. We don't put windows in for the everyday. We put them in when we have those typhoons that happen once a quarter, right? Those typhoons that happen once a quarter. We want to make sure water management, we're pushing water away. Unlike the end of, why would we want to introduce water inside of our frame? That's stupid. So we built the frame to have a slope sill. Just like the old natural wood windows, the water on this gliding window here, this is a gliding window corner, is a slope sill. The only one in the industry like it. It pushes the water back away from the house without introducing it inside the frame. So I don't have the risk of having water set in my window, bugs come in here, or basically any unwanted or unneeded things. It's pushing all that away from the home, which gives you a lasting impression, especially knowing the frame expands, contracts the same rate as glass. Everything's moving together in a system. It's truly the last time you ever have to replace your window. The thickness of the glass, the frame, the W spacer, everything in here is designed for a reason. Even the enhancement that's put inside the sash. There's basically another insulating enhancement put inside the sash to make sure, to show you why Infinity Windows will last you the entire time that sits on the home, right? And unlike a lot of competitors, when you get into the glass, you're not going to read this, right? Propeller products labeled with having low insulated glass. Pella injects argon at time of manufacture. No warranty is made of the amount of percentage argon gas present in insulating glass. It is known that basically argon gas will dissipate over time, right? The conditions and manner that the glass and insulation is put into there. Therefore, basically Pella makes no warranty regarding the amount of argon gas or the amount is left in the frame anytime after it leaves the manufacturer. Means all that gas, which is insulation, right, is not guaranteed. If you bought a house and they said, well, I can't guarantee you that the walls are going to keep you warm after a year, would you buy that house or would you run away, right? Or basically, if you knew that insulation was in there and doing what it needed to be doing, you'd feel 100% comfortable, if not a lifetime warranty, making sure that that glass is doing what it needs to do, or that insulation in the wall is. But nobody's going to buy a house where you can't guarantee how much insulation's in the wall. That'd be stupid. You'd freeze to death. You'd have to cut out your drywall. How much money would it take you to get it back to comfortable? Think about it. Guess what? I'm done today. If you can't take what I just did there, that I even recorded and I'll give to you, and you can't perfect that and sell the hell out of these windows, you probably need to take up a new career. If you pay attention, right? I got pretty excited. I had tons of enthusiasm. We talked about what things, we didn't bash the shit out of it. We just talked about what other products are going to be put in their house and what's not going to work, right? And why it's not going to work. Not beating it up, but educating them based on the conditioned environment. And when you take those sticks, these things right here, and I use these sticks right here, right? I use these big boys right here, and I make sure I put one outside, I put them both outside together, and I set them outside. And I let it go out there the whole time it's sitting in the heat, right in front of that sun. And when I go break out the vinyl, I get to the vinyl slide in there, and I'm explaining to them thermoplastic and why it warps. Then I need to go outside, and I need to grab this one right here. I need to come back in and put it in their hand after it's soft and pliable, right? So I can prove a point. I see better than I hear, right? And then then basically I let this sit outside there longer. And as I'm playing the Ultrex video, how strong is Ultrex? I walk back out and I grab this one. As I grab this one, I bring it back in. Now suddenly they're feeling that. They're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Now, do you understand why that's important in your house? Yes. Boom. Now we're there. That makes sense? You glad I recorded this? Could you benefit from what I just did? All right, what do you guys think? I'm not in the house every day. I'm not in the house every day. You guys are. But if I were in the house, I 100% I would do that same presentation I just showed you, and I guarantee you I'd get a lot of yeses. Guarantee you I would get a lot of yeses. Guess what? I built the keynote for you. We got all the samples here for you, right? You got the window. It's just figuring out how the hell to get it in. If it doesn't work, take it out of the sample case, break it in. I can sell the hell out of it just that corner piece. But again, the whole thing works, right? The lock, check this out. My God, I didn't talk about some of the best stuff, right? Look at it. As I open this lock up, well, I don't have to pick anything up and take it out. Look, I just grab these little sides, boom, tilt, it comes in. Right, tilt to clean, baby. Tilt to clean. Look how easy it is to take that out. I don't have to fight and argue with it. It sets it. The glass is marked with infinity in the top right-hand corner. Says the month, the year, the date. It's what it's born on. There is not another damn window that touches this window in the industry. Look how thin the profiles are. The wood edges. Gorgeous, right? The accents you can put. Look at this. Look at the hardware. Oh my gosh. Check this out. Check the ease of operation. Because everything works as a unit, right? It's sitting there. Everything goes on. The window is so simple, yet so complicated, which makes it beautiful. John and Mary, let me ask you a question. Based on everything you called me out for, we're talking the heat that's happening on those windows. We're talking about the glass back. We're talking about the no glazing bead. We showed you all the different things that are falling apart on your windows and how we're going to address those, right? We talked about the San Diego reflash that we're going to be doing on the outside to make sure that we make these windows work again with the installation, because the installation is not good. Doesn't matter how great this window is, it's not going to muck. So you need the two married together. But again, what we look at, John and Mary, is this, right? If I look at this, John and Mary, and I make sure that this took care of all the problems you called me for, not to mention we found on the inspection, is there anything else you're looking for when we show you a window? Cool, we picked the right color, right? You wanted the white in, the black out, you wanted the black freaking hardware on here. You know, it's going to pop. When people walk into this thing, it's going to be gorgeous, right? Is there anything else I left off for you that's important? No. So when it comes time, it sounds like to me, if there's nothing else you're looking for before I price this up, this is what you need and want, right? What you need and want for the home. And we know the other things aren't going to work, and we know the price points. I bet you're scared, aren't you? I bet you're scared, aren't you? You feel like I'm going to basically choke you down with the price here real quick? You know, so, you know, you can keep that in your mind and want, but let me just stick the price outside real quick, right? If I stick the price outside, it's running around the dog in the backyard, hopefully not burning his feet, like that thing we just showed you, right? So basically, we look at that, besides price or payment, there's no reason we can't get your project started today, right? So I bring the money back in, and it is all about the money. As long as I can make the money fit in your budget, could we go ahead and get your project started today? Wouldn't you love to have these windows on order so you know we've got a solution put in place to make this happen? Would you love that? Cool. I know you're going to love what I got to show for you. Boom. That's it, John and Mary. That's all I got. Hopefully you enjoy it. And guess what? Remember, you're out there every day, so you can do better than I did. You're out there every day. You're practicing until you can't get it wrong. You can be better than I am. I see better than I hear. Questions?